We like to call the first module or the first part of our session product, product, product. Before we think of product, right? And I see a lot of founders make this mistake in creating the product and then figuring out what the problem will be, right? And I think that's why I want to start this session with talking about the key questions that one needs to ask, right? What is the problem, right? Identify the problem first. Is it a real customer problem or just a problem for me, right? And again, going back to that, I'm not trying to create a product to solve I'm not trying to create a problem after I've created a product. I have to create a product that solves a problem. Why do I have the solution to this problem? Or why is my product really the solution to this problem? Or what is the solution to this problem? And then can I solve this problem with the product, right? So these are the 4 key questions that you need to think of before we start in our journey of a D2C brand and launching our own product. I'm going to walk you through sort of the journey of a new product as well, and sort of how we should think of new products. Obviously, every category, every product, every journey will be slightly different, but just trying to encapsulate sort of what we learned in the 70 plus products that we launched, right? So first you have an idea, a concept, you define the idea, you write down on paper, you test the idea, right? So talk to consumers, talk to retailers, talk to people from the ecosystem, understand whether it's a problem, then design how your product would be, how your product is relevant, what your solution is, test it, run your trials, give it to customers, see what they think, right? Then obviously brand the product or brand what you're thinking about. And we'll spend a little bit more time on branding in the next module. Fund it, create the capital to sort of get your test batch going, but also protect it, right? IP is something that we don't talk about enough, but trademark your product. If there is a need for a patent your product, protect it in relation to getting the relevant approvals that you need for this product. Then go ahead and make your test batch or your trial batch. The great part about D2C or online businesses, you don't really have to invest in a huge batch of product, right? So assume you want to launch a health and wellness product in the offline space in Mumbai city. You would have to place the product in 2,000 chemist shops. You have to place the product in 2,000 chemist shops to get a sense. You'll have to place at least 3 to 5 units in each chemist shop. You need to start with 10,000 units. Think about D2C now. You can actually start very easily with just 1,000 units or 2,000 units of the product, right? So make a trial batch and then eventually go into launching and selling the product. With the new product journey, I'm going to talk about a few more specifics other than what I have sort of laid out in the journey timeline. I think these are key learnings from our experience, right? Researching the product category and scoping out the market and the size of market is also really important, right? Because let's say for me, I am a vegan, or not vegan, but I'm a gluten-free, sugar-free consumer, right? If I were to think of products, and I were to think of building products for a consumer like me, it would be exciting for me as a user, but it may not be as large a market size, right? When you create the product, it's also important to find how the product will be manufactured, right? So in most cases, actually, early stage D2C brands need to go out and find the right manufacturer. You need to find someone who sees you as a partner, who cares about the quality of product, and who's willing to support as we start with low MOQs, right? Because as a new brand, you'll start with lower MOQs. I think BOM or bill of material is something that a lot of founders forget, right? So we think of a product, but we don't think of the viability of the product, right? So you need to cost out the product. And we used to run a B2B division at Dr. Vaidya's. We used to make for other brands as well. So what I would also do is I would make a costing for the product for, let's say, the pilot batch, which is 1,000 units, but then it would also help the brand understand what the cost would be for 2.5 times and 5 times that, right? Because a pilot batch is not steady state business. At 5 times your pilot batch, that's steady state business. So you need to understand what your gross margin would be and whether this business is viable, because eventually when we do spend time on unit economics, you'll realize that knowing the gross margin allows you to understand what the costs you can spend on customer acquisition are, right? getting product samples and then taking these product samples to focus groups, product trials, customers, and really understanding sort of what the insights are from the customers. Once they try your product, once they understand how you are solving the problem. I think taking these insights back to the drawing board is also very important. From a packaging perspective, right, there is both visual but also technical. And in a lot of categories like health and wellness, like beauty, personal care, you will have certain nutraceuticals, you will have certain regulations which will come into sort of how your packaging should look, what your packaging should say, what are the relevant cautions, warnings you need to put on your packaging. So technical is as important as visual when it comes to packaging. I talked already about protecting the IP, and then eventually after doing all of this, taking your product to a pilot launch. At Dr. Vaidya's, we had 4 key principles that we used to look at for product success. And these 4 key principles are customer first, MOAT, competitive landscape, and actually carving your niche. And we'll spend a little bit more time on this when we go into the brand section. And most importantly, actually, iterations and improvements post-launch, right? So I'll get into each of these, and then we can pause for questions on the product module, right? So it's really important to understand your niche and build a product for your customer and not for yourself, right? When you think of building a product for customers, you have to think of value, customer outcomes, like is this really adding value to customers? Is the customer going to stay sticky and come back to me? Will I have loyalty? These are all the important aspects you have to think of when you think of product. If you think of all of these and you get these right, you'll build this virtuous cycle of customers creating more customers who create more customers who keep coming back to the brand. And that's really sort of the ability to create a successful brand. MOAT. I talk a lot about this when I think about D2C as well. Where does my product win, right? And I'm going to talk to you about various moats that products could have. Look, I think what's important is that you have to have some moat. Thinking of all of these moats is not important, but some of these moats, or what is your moat, is really the key, right? So when I think of moats, I think of price, right? If you think of Jio coming into the market and launching their services at a very high quality at a price below everybody else. When you think of quality, Mamaearth was the first toxin-free, cruelty-free, natural, EcoCert certified skincare brand. When you think of unique benefits, you think of WakeFit, right? Because when the pandemic hit, a lot of us may not actually know that WakeFit actually launched its own work from home furniture line. And that was really successful for them, right? We talk about technology. Now, there are so many different types of headphones available in the market and so many different types of wireless headphones available in the market. I've tried all of them, but eventually for my iPhone, I found the AirPods and the technology and the seamlessness to be the best. Convenience, right, with Lenskart. It's so easy to buy once from Lenskart and then to keep buying from Lenskart, right? So I bought Trisha's lenses 21 months ago on Lenskart, and every month we've come back to Lenskart. Form. With our product, Chikash, we took Chyawanprash into a toffee form, right? And so we solved the problem of form factor. And like that, you have variety with Amazon, shampoo sachets and solving size. Expiry Raw Pressy was the first brand to be able to create cold pressed juice in a high expiry format. Delivery with Big Basket. Today, we take delivery slots as a given. That's Big Basket was the first brand to be able to launch it. Reach with Asian Paints and distribution. They actually cut off the middleman and directly from factory delivered to retailers. And then innovation, there's a brand called Femora that has made India-specific kitchen products and cutlery and sort of understood what the problems of the Indian customers are and created these products, right? So when you think of all of these examples, you think that there has to be something in your product. It may not be these examples, but you have to think through what is my moat and why does my product win above everything else? We don't want to be creating Me Too products in the ecosystem which is already flooded with products. We will take it after. Carving your own niche, right? So it's important to understand the competitive landscape, but it's also important then to stand on your own 2 feet, right? I saw this really important quote from the CTO of HubSpot. He said the startup graveyard is filled with companies that are obsessed over their competitors instead of their customers, right? And so I think I see a lot of brands coming in and I see a lot of chatter on the ecosystem, at least when it comes to beauty, personal care, where there are 20 brands or 50 brands doing the same thing, right? Initially, you may get some sales traction, but in the long term, your brand really doesn't stand for as much value or as much sort of uniqueness. And that will make your brand struggle in the long term or the medium term. In the short term, you may get some success, but in the medium to long term, you will struggle. You may launch a product, but you need to keep working post your launch, right? So I was talking to the founder of Purple, and he said, every weekend I talk to 30 customers. And every weekend I learn something from these customers. I learn something about where my product is not good enough and where I can improve. It's also very important to track adverse feedback, track customer complaints, and action these customer complaints. If there's something wrong with your product and you get a bunch of complaints, take them in and understand from your customer. Always keep a close eye on quality, right? Because in a competitive landscape, quality is the only thing that will get customers to come back to you. Listen to customers for variations and added features to your products, right? So for us, we had a product called Weight Gain Pack that launched in early 2019 and did very well. And so we could have said, okay, this product's doing very well. Let's just keep it going very well, right? But a lot of the customers came and said, hey, we're consuming your Weight Gain Pack, but we see nothing in Ayurveda that is completely natural for muscle gain. And so eventually we took this feedback back. We launched a product called Herbo Build in July 2019. This is a product that's all natural, ashwagandha, shatavari, and safed muesli based for muscle gain. This insight actually eventually created our top-selling product. Herbo Build today is the #1 bestseller on Amazon and has been in the mass and weight gainer category for a very, very long time. And so really taking this customer insight in helped us create our #1 best-selling SKU. Always have something in R&D. At Dr. Vaidya, we always had 10 new products in R&D. You're always thinking of something new. You may not launch 10 new products every month, but you always have to have the next set of products ready or in your mind. And that allows you to keep innovating, right? So I think if I were to summarize my learnings on product, it's ask the right questions or keep the right questions in mind. Think of your competitive niche or your moat. Have unique and innovative products and keep working post-launch. And as long as you're doing this, you're able to create uniquely differentiated products in the ecosystem. I'll stop here for questions, and I see 3 questions as well. So I'm going to take those first. So Abha says, please explain moat. It's not a familiar term to me. And apologies that I didn't explain that term. What is a moat, right? A moat is, if you think of, if any of you have seen pictures or been to a fort, right? There is a water body around a fort. This water body prevents the fort or the castle from attack, right? And so it's important to think of our products as a fort or a castle and to build this water body around our products that allows us to stand strong against our competitors, right? So I think that's what moat is.